Give a Mile for me, the reason I founded it, the inspiration behind Give a Mile is I had a really good friend, Ryan, who passed away from brain cancer. It was a life-changing experience. He asked me to be beside him, and he said, Kevin, I'm going to need you to help me get through this, and I want you to be there for me and be somebody I can talk to and confide in, and it was an incredible year and a half. I remember one of the moments when, in Ryan's journey, they realized there was no more treatment, and they said, there's nothing else we can do. There's no other forms of treatment. And we had this incredible community of support around Ryan. So people were calling me saying, what can we do for him? Can we get him this? Can we take him to, this golf course or on this trip or what have you? And talking with him, he said, Kevin, the thing I want is I just want time with my family and the people I love. Near the end, the doctor saying, I can cut back the pain drugs and he can be awake more so you guys can have conversations with him. And we were all able to say that you don't need to do that. We've said everything we need to say, and we feel he can be at peace now. And so that was an incredible moment to be there and be able to say that. And so I wanted to pay that forward, that power of visit, that people connecting and being there, things that need to be said being said. Maybe it's just holding a hand, maybe it's just hugging people, but that sense of love and compassion. And that is really what the essence of Give a Mile is all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, James Hicks here, Hicks New Media and Infotainment News. Thank you for joining us Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. I wanted to start with that video to show you the character of the person that I'm talking to today. Now, if that doesn't make you want to support, donate, help, evangelize the Give a Mile cause, maybe the next 45-minute conversation will. Let me introduce you, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Crowe. Kevin, how you doing, brother?
Great, man. Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to have this conversation.
So I started with the video, and I'm sitting behind the scenes getting slightly emotional about it. I've watched it 20 or 30 times already, and you did the video, and it's personal to you. I want to keep that front of mind as we continue to have our conversation, because I want folks to understand the character of the person that we're talking to. You and I go back. Look, you're a I'll give you a LinkedIn statement, right? Technology executive, ultra marathoner, philanthropist. But look, you and I were slinging servers and hardware and IT stuff back in the day.
That's right.
For some reason, I still never made it to the Calgary Stampede, but we'll
get you there.
We'll make that happen after all of this lockdown. I'll get it. Give the people the elevator pitch. Tell folks who is Kevin Crowe and why. What makes you you?
I got this really great piece of advice, and it was really about being deliberate in designing your life, right? And I think a lot of us go through life almost sometimes unconsciously, not thinking about, what is it we really want and what are we really focused on. And the piece of advice I got was, there's kind of some key pillars to design your life around. And the first one is, do something that you love that's going to pay the bills. And for me, that's technology. And I work at Longview Systems, and I've been there for 20 years. And, I think I was employee number 9, and now we're about 1,100 people. And so it's been an incredible journey, learning lots, and love to lead there and love to work with amazing people. And, just so much going on in technology. I love that space. And the second thing is, do something you love that keeps you fit, right? That keeps you in shape. And right now for me, that has been endurance events, especially running. Just ran a race called the Spine in January in England, which was a 268-mile endurance marathon through the mountains of England and Scotland. And then,
say that length one more time. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want to gloss over that, right? So what was the length of the spine?
Yeah, 268 miles.
Okay.
It's 7 days. The clock never stops, so it's not like you run a certain distance each day. You just have to be at certain points about a certain amount of time, or you're disqualified. And so, yeah, that was one heck of an epic adventure. And I've done a few of those events, although that's the longest one I've done. I've also ran like 240 miles and 100 milers and that type of thing. And then the next pillar is, do something that gives back, that supports the community. And for me, that's Give a Mile, and it's a passion project. It's 100% volunteer. Inspired by my friend Ryan and his passing from brain cancer, and just an incredible, heart-growing journey. We're up to 700 flights given, and as we continue to grow. So that amazing pillar. And then the last part of that design is, be surrounded by an amazing network of friends and family, right? People that support you, people that you're invested in. People that are invested in you, people that really care about your success, people that can mentor you, give you advice, people that also can, talk plain truth to you, right?
Yes, yes.
Don't let your ego get out of control or anything like that. And so, if I look at my life, those are the principles I'm designing on, and I'm trying to, give energy to and be very purposeful around all those pillars, and continue to improve and do better on each one of those.
Yeah. And, those are the things that, right, make you a strong person mentally, physically, spiritually, right? Again,
Mm-hmm.
when you sit back and think about the challenges that we're facing right now,
Mm-hmm.
being locked down, you can't necessarily go out and engage with a lot of people face to face, but you found the way to continue to maintain that that drive, that push to look. I don't have to sit in front of this computer all day. I can get out on my bike. I can get out there and run 200 miles across the globe. So
Yeah.
so let me tell you something. I've been watching. It's called The World's Toughest Race.
Yes, absolutely, man.
It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Absolutely.
Me and my wife are watching this.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah, thanks,
That
man. Yeah, it's incredible.
and no, that's what you're doing, right? You're going through all these just incredibly insane obstacles, running, paddleboarding. I saw you posted on your Instagram the other day. What you yes, so you paddleboarded from one end of Canada to the other. Is that what you did?
Yeah, we did 55 kilometers of paddleboarding on a river here in Calgary, the Bow River, which flows from the mountains basically past the city. And so that was incredible, right? Like the river's flowing, it's got some rapids on it and stuff. So learning how to paddleboard through whitewater, and a great adventure. But, to your point, one of the things I really looked at, when COVID hit and lockdowns started happening, is that mental state, right? And one of the really important things for a mental state is exercise and, physically moving. And we know that, you look at any study, it's like, I think exercise is like 2 or 3 times more powerful than any antidepressant they've ever come up with. And so, I really said, hey, I'm going to double down into fitness. I'm going to make sure I keep my discipline. And it's not been easy. Like, I think for everyone, right? It's just, there's been, lulls where you just lose that energy, and it's sometimes even hard just to get out of bed. But just keeping that discipline, and making sure that you're moving, and that, the paradox of exercise to me is when you want to do it the least is when you need it the most, right? So the toughest days are the ones that are the most important. And, I think one of the big things to do there is just kind of chunk it down. And, sometimes I tell myself I'm only going to run for 5 minutes, right? Just put your shoes on and run for 5 minutes and you're done for the day. Because I know once I'm in motion, once I've kind of gone through that, put my shoes on, I started running, and okay, my mind's going to switch into, okay, here we go. We're out here. Let's do this, right? And so, just chunking things down, making them manageable, not thinking about the big thing in front of you, to me is, a really good lesson. Obviously, an important lesson when you're running things like 268 miles and that type of thing. Never thought of those races in their entirety, really. I always thought of them when I was in them in smaller chunks, right? More manageable chunks.
Now, are you specifically training for anything right now, or are you just getting out there and getting after it for the most part?
Yeah, just getting after it. I mean, ran the spine at the end of January, and normally kind of, after a big event like that will, take about a year, because it takes obviously a lot of time for your family and that type of thing.
Right.
You want to get back, but it's an interesting time because a lot of those races are run by, people that are pretty passionate. There's not a lot of money per se. And so, who can survive through COVID and what events stay and what events happen. It's going to be, real interesting. Of course, there's also people that are thinking up new events and, some creativity to the mix. So going to keep an eye on that whole ecosystem and, fingers crossed that a lot of those independent organizers can get through this and can keep events running. And like I said, hopefully some really new creative stuff comes out as people have time to reflect on what they want to build.
Definitely. Now, again, I've been watching this one on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Trying to no, and we're gonna get into definitely. But man, I'm just dialed into how in the world a single person can trek across.
Yeah.
Give us a little idea in terms of what the training looks like for you, right? I mean, is it a lot of focus on the nutrition? Is it focused on, again, your cardiovascular, being able to traverse so many miles, like either on a bike or whatever the case would be? Mm-hmm. What specifically do you do from a training perspective to get ready for that?
Yeah, like if you look at the Spine, which was the latest event, to me, one of the things I love about those big events is there's not really a textbook decided way to train for these yet, right? They're pretty unknown. They're very new. Only a few small number of people have participated. So people are still trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to actually train for these events? So my theory that I follow is really, I train 6 days a week and then I have 2 long days back to back. So, I'll literally run 6 days and then, on that Saturday, Sunday, they'll get, I'll build up to where I'm doing in the entire week about 110 miles is what I was kind of topped out for the Spine. And so on the Saturday, I would do maybe like a 35 miler. And then on the Sunday, I would do like a 25 miler or something so that your body learns how to run tired. And that, a lot of this is kind of that muscle of kind of discipline, right? Like everybody, and I'm sure you saw it on the Eco Challenge as people talk about the mental game, right? Like how much more mental it is than physical. And it's so true, right? Like it's just, the thing about running long distance for me and the training is, you're testing your mind, you're getting your mind used to it. You're zoning in on your nutrition, what clothes work under what certain weather and that type of thing. So you're kind of getting all that system dialed in, and it's almost like a muscle memory when you're in those races, because as you're going without a lot of sleep and that type of thing, your body actually almost, it feels like it's on kind of almost like autopilot because it's done so much of that training. Yeah. And, the one thing I do stress when I talk about it to people is, the thing about training for the Spine was it's about running. It wasn't about reading about running. It wasn't watching YouTube running. It was, you got to go out and run, right? It's about action. And yeah, you can educate yourself, but it's really around, time in, I live by the mountains, so I spent lots of time in the mountains running. We went out and did this. It was called the West Coast Trail, which is like an 80-kilometer trail. Yeah. We ran that as a training run because it's really around, rubber hitting the road and getting out there and doing that type of thing. Yeah, you do watch nutrition, especially like the nutrition for when you're running, what fuels you when you're active and that type of thing. I came across this book, which I really love. It's called With Winning in Mind. It was written by a gentleman who was a like Olympic sharpshooter. Like he had been highly ranked on the U.S. team, went to the Olympics and ended up only getting a silver. And he really started investigating the mental game of, why people win. And he'll say, like, I think it's 90% of the winning is done by 5% of the athletes, right? But everybody's kind of at that high level. Okay. And why is that? And he really talks about understanding the process and kind of falling in love when you feel good in the process. So, we like to visualize, people talk about visualizing like the finish line and that type of thing. But he talks more about like visualizing, the moments you feel really good, like, the moment you hit that home run, how'd you feel? What were you sensing? And repeating that in your mind. And to me, that was one of the things I really focus on in the running is when did I feel good and how did those moments show up and, what was going on in my mind and trying to keep in that mental state. And, through that 268-mile race, you have to make a lot of decisions, and you have to make a lot of decisions on when you're super mentally tired. I think, and, it took me 6 days to finish. I think I might have had, 4 or 5 hours of sleep through 6 days. And so really trying to make good decisions and rewarding, being really happy about just making good decisions through that race. So those were the things that are really kind of focused on in my training process, but always learning, always adapting.
Yeah, and I bring that up, and I'm glad you went down that path, because it's more than just the sport of it, right? There's
right.
life lessons. There's things outside of just taking part in that activity that you seem to bring out of that experience that really resonate, right? I mean, you become stronger again, physically, spiritually, and mentally, just by preparing yourself to go out and do this challenge. But what you get out of it is more than just a medal at the end, right? And hypothermia, possibly.
Yeah, that's right.
but there's some really good life lessons that I guess that really is what drives folks to do something like that, right?
It's the metaphorical learning is huge, right? And I think they talk a lot about that in the Eco series. You hear people kind of refer to that, and it's not just about the finish line, right? That there's a whole bunch of things happening, and there's something. When you're that tired and that exhausted, your ego will be ripped bare, right? Like you can't lie to yourself anymore. You can't tell yourself any stories. And in those moments, you're going to have to learn, and you're going to grow and kind of rise up. And to me, I feel like any of those things, like, courage, tenacity, discipline, they're all muscles, right? Like the more you can expose yourself and the more you work on them, the better you'll be at with those muscles. And that's, I think, through all of life, right? So if I can, find more courage in the spine, I can apply that when I come back and I'm a leader at work, right? I think, one of the big things is that you really learn how your mind works when you go through those races, and, how your mind ebbs and flows. And in the spine, it was in the winter in England and Scotland, so really bad weather. Like, literally we had 90-mile-an-hour winds, and it rained pretty much every day. I think we had 2 or 3 hours without rain. So you're cold, wet, you're trying to get through these mountains. And all of that, your mind is going to play all these games. And one of the biggest things for me was, accepting the situation for what it was, right? Because when I first started running, and it's on the national trail, and it's called the Pennine Way, but it's not really a trail. You got to do lots of navigation, and it's muddy, and it's like through swamps. And I was like saying, I wish the trail was like this, or I wish the weather was like this. And it was like, well, you can wish all you want. This is what it is. Like, step up to it, like,
adapt to it. Yeah,
that's right. And not fight it to be something else, and really to be present in that moment and work on overcoming those obstacles. And, I love the Stoics, and I read a lot of Stoicism, and, Ryan Holiday's got some great books. The Obstacle is the Way is one that I really love. And it really talks about that obstacle there is the learning experience, right? So don't try to avoid it. Try to, embrace yourself in that moment of, okay, what's it trying to teach me? What can I learn from this? How can I be better from it? What is it going to take to overcome this, and then reflecting on those lessons. And to me, that's what I love about those ultra races, is they have so much of that in them. And, you just, you learn so much about yourself. It's hard to overstate that, right?
But so how long have you been doing ultras?
About 10 years,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been able to translate some of what you do from that perspective, the competition and those activities, into what you do at Longview, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Give a Mile and all those things. I think, if you look at Give a Mile, and, we give flights to people that are end of life to be with their loved ones. And there's so many learning lessons from those families. I always say, one of the things that, Give a Mile gives me gifts every week, because I'll be talking to family members, and, they're at end of life. And, I'll be thinking about some problem I have at work or something going on. And then you talk to somebody and they might have a child that's passing away. They might have a father, etc. And it just puts everything in perspective. And you realize that, everything's impermanent. I only have so much time. And I also need to make the most use of that time in the most valuable ways I can. And they constantly allow me to reflect on that. And that helps me, go on these adventures. I know that, I'm at a certain age, I'm no longer going to be able to do these adventures. So embrace the moment now. If you want to go do them, go do it now, right? Get the learning lessons from it, apply that to life. And to me, that's why that purposeful design on those pillars has been so important for me, because each one is providing kind of a wisdom in that ecosystem to be better at all those areas, and become a better person through all of it, hopefully.
Definitely. Oh, you definitely are. And I did see the recent milestone. What was it? 700 miles given
700,
and
yeah, 700 flights. Yeah, we just passed our
700
700th
miles.
flight. Yeah,
And the big goal or the big idea, I
yeah.
mean, as you call it, is a million miles.
I, I
That's the
want
stretch goal, right? I
a,
mean,
bill,
we're going to surpass that.
a billion. We want to do
I'm
a
sorry.
billion
I
with
didn't
a
want to. Oh
B.
my goodness. I
Yeah.
didn't want to cut you short there. I said a
No,
million.
man. No,
We're going for a billion.
you got to think big. When I looked at, Give a Mile, and, I lost my friend Ryan, and through brain cancer, and he was in the hospice the last few weeks of his life, and they did an incredible job and looked after him. And, his family, had a chance, obviously, to be with him and not care for him, just be with him as the hospice did the caring, and an incredible experience. And when he passed away, I knew I wanted to do something for him, because he was such an incredible person and had such an impact on so many people. But I didn't want to just do something that was already out there in the ecosystem. I knew it needed to be unique and new. And I heard this crazy stat that, in the world, there's about $10 trillion worth of unused loyalty miles and points on a global basis, right? 10 trillion. And we said, well, we had seen all these families at the hospice that were trying to say goodbye on Skype and, that type of thing, because they couldn't afford a flight. And we said, well, why, if we have those people donate those travel miles, small amounts, you give 1,000 miles, I give 1,000 miles, and then we get those mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters on planes, we can give these families visits, a chance to have a last visit. And we started that. We're just going to, in January will be our 7th year. We'll be wrapped up our 7th year. And so we've done 703 flights. 151 of those have been international, flying someone in North America or flying someone from North America to see a loved one. And each one of those 703 flights has been an incredible story, incredible, just you realize how grateful you are for your life and everything you have, because there's people that have immense challenges that they're overcoming. There's people that, come from all very different backgrounds and have families in different positions in different states, and just to give them a gift. We've had people that, fathers that have disowned sons, and on their deathbed, they realize that's a mistake and they want to have one last conversation with their son before they pass away.
Wow.
How powerful is that son's going to get on that plane and go see him. We've had a son who went to visit his mom. She, was an alcoholic. She abused him. She was on her deathbed. She wanted to make amends. He got on that plane. An incredible story. We had a woman, she was looking for her birth mom, and found her birth mom only to find out that she was in palliative care. She hadn't seen her since she was 2 years old. And so we flew her to the hospice, and we talked to the nurses afterwards, and the nurses said, the woman, the mom was in distress, right? She was like, you could just tell she was not having a peaceful death, right? So there was just a lot of uncomfort. And then her daughter came. They had this amazing hug. They had this amazing conversation. And I believe her mom passed away a couple days later. And the nurses said you could just feel the peace come into the room, right? That closure had happened. Yeah. And so 703 of those incredible stories. And obviously we want to do lots more. We want to get to 1 billion miles. I think we're at about 23 million miles used so far, donated. And obviously want to make many more flights happen.
Oh. Man, it's definitely happening. And again, that's really why I wanted to start with that. And I will make sure that within the show notes afterwards that I know I put the site up and put the donate or pledge now page, but I want to make sure that folks see that. And look, right now, no one, for the most part, is traveling anywhere, right?
That's
so
right.
So we've got the capability to utilize, and why not give to a very worthy cause?
Yeah.
Because, so many folks are in that stage, and then you've got so many other things on your mind, right, at that particular
Absolutely.
point in life. So
well,
why not?
It's so financially exhausting when you're dealing with terminal
exactly
illness, right? If you've got somebody that's ever dealt with cancer or that type of thing, and I know Ryan, like even in his situation, he was a professional. He had made good money. He was working hard, but he had to stop working, obviously, and he had a young son who was 4 at the time, and his wife, and it, all the finances just added up, and you don't want that additional stress on families. It just obviously wears them out. Now, the other thing is we're 100% volunteer and it's 100% donation model. So any miles or money donated to flights, 100% of that's going to go to the flights. And as you saw, I see you show the website, you can donate to specific flights, so you know exactly which family you're helping. We want you to be connected to the impact, and then we raise funds to run the organization separately. So you don't have to worry. 100% of your donation is going to go make those flights happen. And you look at those families, and it's an incredible moment because they're basically a 180 is happening. They're in a situation where they're like, I'm never going to see my father again, right? He's about to pass away, and all of a sudden they get connected to Give a Mile. And they're like, hey, we have a flight here for you. You're going to get on there and go visit your dad. So I can't tell you the emotions through those phone calls and obviously connecting with those families. It's just incredibly, just grows your heart. I know when I first started giving flights away, I'd get on the phone and I tell families, hey, I have a flight for you. And there'd be this big moment of silence.
Right.
And I'd be like, hey, it's totally legit. Like, just check out our website. But then what I realized was, it was nothing to do with that. It was the fact that in that moment, there's not words, right? Because it's such a powerful thing for humans to connect to humans in that moment. And as one woman said to us, she goes, you're telling me that people I don't even know, complete strangers, are willing to donate to give me this flight? And I'm like, absolutely. And she goes, I can't tell you how much faith and belief that gives me in humanity, right? That at this moment, these complete strangers are willing to give me the most powerful, important gift that I've ever had.
I didn't ask for it. I need it. But you know what? Someone who doesn't know me from anyone is providing this to me in my most needed time. Right?
100%. And to me, that is so important, especially in these times right now, for us to see each other and live in that kind of kinship of humanity, right? That we're here to help each other. That we're going to be there for each other. And through COVID, we've seen, we had a record July of flights. We gave around 20 flights away in July.
Okay.
And it's most of the applications coming in are, I was laid off by COVID, right? I can't financially afford this because of COVID. And so obviously, people are still in hospices and people are still in critical care, and we got to get family members there. We follow all the, COVID rules in place of, people having whether, they make sure they get tested before they go in, or, they have to wear a mask or whatever that is. We work with the nurses and social workers to make sure we follow that. But, family members still need to be there and still need to support those loved ones for sure.
That's true. So definitely kudos on that. What is, I know the ultimate goal or the continued goal, when you reach $1 billion, you're not stopping. So, I mean, but what's next though? I mean, are you going to continue to focus on providing those flights? Are you maybe looking at pivoting or adding some additional services to some of these families, or are you going to stay kind of laser focused on getting you from point A to point B to be with that person?
Yeah, our next big step is really, we're expanding it in the U.S., right? So we're founded out of Canada. That's, where I live, up here in Calgary. About doing a real focus expansion into the U.S. We think it's a great time. We'd love to bring some more compassion to our American friends, brothers and sisters. So really bringing a big effort there and working more with the U.S. point programs and getting some more U.S. point programs on. So that's kind of going to be our next big step. And by all means, if you're in need of the flight, you're listening to this story, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll still work with you. But we're going to expand that and put an effort. The one big thing I want to make happen that's kind of outside of Give a Mile is the fact that I want more social entrepreneurs and innovators to be working and thinking about how to use these loyalty point programs. There's 10 to 11 trillion dollars worth in the world right now that are sitting kind of on the sidelines. People are collecting them. They're going to use them at a future date. But if you think about that, we could immunize every child from 0 to 15 in the world for about $250 billion right now, is my understanding. So if we could get some more social entrepreneurs in this, thinking about, ways that you can use these loyalty programs and make social good happen, because it's such a beautiful win-win-win for us. Aeroplan here, which is Air Canada, has been a huge partner for us, and it's a beautiful win for their brand, right? Because they're 100% committed to social good. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It's a great win for obviously the families that are getting the flight, but it's a great win for us collecting miles and points. We can do something socially good with them.
Yep.
To your point, we can do some flights and we can go on our vacations, but we can also give some of these to people that need them, and maybe there's more creative ways we can use them. So, I call that out to any social entrepreneurs, innovators out there. Like, look at this space. There's a lot of impact to be had. If I told you as an entrepreneur there was $11 trillion sitting in a VC account somewhere, you would go after it pretty hard to do some innovation.
I would have something to do for sure with that. Yes, that's good.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
100%, man.
I love that. It's funny because I got my notice from Mileage Plus. I'm looking over here my email now from United, and Mr. Hicks, you have X number of miles going to expire.
Yeah.
I now know where some of them. So once you expand to the yes, I definitely now know where those are going to go for sure.
Yeah, and you can donate your U.S. travel points right now. You just have to donate them, and enough for an entire flight, because I can't transfer small amounts, right?
Okay.
So you could donate your United, like it's a commitment to say, hey, Kev, when you connect with a family, let me know, and we'll make that flight happen. So by all means, all our American friends can definitely go to the website and donate points, and of course, money as well. Obviously helps us. We do about 12% of our flights in cash, just because we can't find a point or seat on points, or it just doesn't make sense. And like I said, we have fees and that type of thing. So everybody can participate. And we historically have done flights in the U.S. and we'll continue to do flights in the U.S. We just want to do it on a bigger scale for sure. So
I love the call to action now to the viewers and the listeners. Right now, we've got the call to action as opposed to me giving it to someone else at a meeting for work or something. So I like that. That feels a little bit different. Yeah. What are you doing? I know you said you were out on the paddleboard for an extremely long distance. What are you doing along with Give a Mile? What are you doing for you? I mean, you know what I mean? So to keep yourself sane, grounded during this particular time that we've got right now. I mean, are you? I'm not even gonna put any words in your mouth. What is it that Kevin Crowe does? When you need to unwind, you need to relax, you need to kind of refocus and recenter right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, right? As COVID hit, I have a very structured, quote unquote, daily routine, right? So I'll wake up at 4:30 every morning. I meditate, I work out, I meditate again. Then I have a cold shower, and then I do about an hour of like journaling and what I would call deep work. Like before I take a meeting, right? Before I hop into a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom call, what are the key things I need to do? And I have this tool I use, a productivity journal, kind of measuring my productivity and focus on that type of thing. And then also at night, I read a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes, kind of before I go to bed. So I looked at that routine and I said, what are the key things that are going to help me through COVID? And, like many people, I've been learning and pivoting, right? Like what's working, what's not working. I've had my high moments, I've had my low moments. And, I'm a social person. Like my wife's a little more of an introvert. So she goes, look at introverts are going to rule right now. Extroverts are going to be challenged. So I realized, there's a couple things that I had to make sure I put in there. One was just having like non-business, agenda conversations, right? So when we hop on any call, there's usually a time allotted to it. There's a purpose, like from a meeting point of view, right? We're trying to get this done. But hey, I just want to connect with people and just have a conversation of where it goes. So really building that in. Sometimes that's like when we're in more of a heavier lockdown, was like having people come over and going for a walk. Let's just do a 30-minute walk, just catch up, have a conversation. Sometimes that was like a quick Zoom call with a drink in hand. Let's just chat and that type of thing. And then I realized like the other thing I needed was, I love to have intellectual conversations, philosophical conversations. Anyone that's hung out with me and had a few drinks with me will know that's kind of where it's going to go.
That's why, look, there was a method behind the madness. That's why I went that way, right? That's specifically why I went this way. So, yes, sir.
Yeah. So then I said, okay, well, I got to get some of that going. So got connected to a book club, which is full of some of business execs I know and that type of thing. And so, we're reading a book a month and we're having conversations on that type of thing. And then just participating in some kind of like, I guess we would call them like meetups, like Zoom meetups, where they're having certain conversations around certain topics, social entrepreneurship, that type of thing, where there's more of a philosophical high end conversation not tactical, right? Just working through ideas. And those have been huge for me, you know, like just really stimulating the mental part and the social part. And then the last thing I say is I call it the COVID roll call. So I just have a bunch of people on my roll call that, you know, I check, it pops up every 2 weeks. Like, who haven't you chatted with? Who do you need to reach out to?
That's good.
Who might be off the radar screen, right? Because, you know, obviously everyone's in a different state. My son's 18. We have lots of our friends that have younger kids, and they're just in such a different state. You know, I've gone with not seeing them for a month, maybe a month and a half. And, you know, sometimes I almost feel, and they welcome it as like, drag them out, right? Like, look at, man, you've been in the house a little too long. Coffee's on me. Just come with me. I don't care. Bring the kids. If they're running around like crazy, that's fine. Let's just see each other. So those are the tactics that seem to have helped. And this is just guesswork. I'm not a virologist or anything, but I expect, at least in Canada, we're going to be locked down in October again. That's our flu season. It will pick up. Yeah. And so, you know, purposefully going in the mountains, purposefully getting on the paddleboard and paddling the boat every weekend, trying to get outdoors as much as possible, just to recharge that part. And, you know, our winter obviously here in Canada is a little harsh, so that's a harder time to get outside. So really trying to get outside as much as possible as well.
That was a softball question, because I knew you were going to take it that way, and you know, in all seriousness, you know, the reason why I did that again was kind of go back to how I opened. Yeah, I want folks to understand the character of the person that I'm talking to today, and the fact that you consciously take that time for yourself every day to look after yourself, and then handle your business, and then you look out for the folks that are around you, that sphere of influence. I mean, that's incredibly critical, and you know, we can forget that, especially at times like this right now, when we may have the blinders on and we're focused on maybe woe is me or whatever's going on. But stay cognizant of taking care of yourself, taking care of folks around you. So again, I just wanted to hear that dialogue and let other folks hear it as well.
Well, and one of the most important things inside that formula, and I think, you know, there's several quotes on it, I won't get them exactly right, but if you're feeling sad, the best thing to do is go help somebody, right? And to me, that's what Give a Mile has been huge. That, you know, when we help others, when we're reaching out, whatever, you know, charity or form that is that's you're passionate about, but when you're helping others, it does something for yourself, right? Like, I don't know, I can't explain it, right? That the fact that you're, you know, once again, that concept of like community or kinship, of seeing each other, understanding the human condition and being there for each other, it's powerful. You know, I always say thank you to the families that we give flights to, and they always say, why are you, like, don't say thank you to me. And I'm like, but you don't understand, there's a couple things here. It's super helpful for myself, you know, just what it means for my spirit, for my heart, you know, just your soul, right? And then every time I do that, the memory of my friend Ryan's alive, right? And I think of him and I reflect on him, and, you know, he's been passed away 10 years now, but he's still so much part of our family, our DNA, our community. And, you know, I just think he's giving me a wink, right? That every time one of those flights go out the door, and, you know, his son's 14 now, and he always asks me, you know, how many flights are going out the door? How's Give a Mile doing? And I just love the fact that this man who had, you know, gave such inspiration, such impact on us, that he's still creating impact even though he's left us, right?
You're definitely doing the good work, man. I would definitely say that, and I'm internalizing a lot of what you're saying as well. I'm going to take a lot of that to action. And my family knows. I mean, I believe the exact same way that you're saying, right? So holidays, Christmas, birthdays, whatever, folks will ask me, what do you want for your birthday or for a gift? I don't want anything. Make a donation to charity. Right? And for you know, for the past 20 years or so, that's been what I've told folks. Give it, if you want to give me something, give something to someone who really needs it.
Absolutely.
Right? And that feeling of giving, that little feeling of giving back, of making some sort of difference in, you know, the St. Jude's, the March of Dimes, where the American Cancer, wherever. Now Give a Mile.
Absolutely.
Anywhere, just makes it worthwhile in terms of that effort. So I appreciate you saying that and vocalizing that.
Well, there's a great mental model, and I forget who kind of gave me this exercise, but and there's no trick to this. I'm not trying to use this as a some sort of trick to change your mind on religion or anything, but it's a good mental exercise. Is that you come to the end of your life and you show up in a courtroom, and the judge asks you, give me your case, give me the hard facts on why you led a good life, right? Like what you did to make the world a better place. And I think a lot of us would default to kind of like just platitudes, right? I was a good person. I was kind. I looked after my family. But if you really start to dig into that, and to me, that's one of those things I challenge myself with is, what is your case? Like, what is the hard evidence? Like, what are the things you put on the table? And especially for people like ourselves that are doing well, we work in tech and obviously live in these amazing countries. And okay, so I can send the elevator down to help people. I have an obligation to help others. And so I ask myself that a lot, like, what is the case? Where is the evidence? What are you doing? What are you capable of? And I want hard evidence, right? I don't want it to be like, I was nice to the waiter today. What are those facts you can put on? And the other kind of mental model I use is, you kind of think of, what's the purpose of life? And obviously big questions that are really hard to answer. But if you woke up in a weight room and, you could go around asking people, why am I in the weight room? Why are we in a weight room? Or you could realize, hey, I'm in a weight room. Probably should be working out, probably should be exercising. And to me, that feels like what life is about, right? That we have this amazing opportunity to grow, learn, challenge ourselves. And I can go around and kind of spend my time trying to figure out why that is. But everything kind of points to the fact that that's what I should be doing, right? And we'll figure that stuff out afterwards. So those mental models to me have been huge, like kind of always recentering yourself on them. Are you following them? How are you showing up in regards to them, for sure,
So the moral of the story, the rule of the story, if you got another opportunity and you wake up and you get out of bed, don't waste that 24 hours.
Absolutely. The Stoics talk a lot about how we look to death as something coming towards us, but we don't really look at death as the time that's dead to us from the past, right? That's think of all the time we've used, that's dead time. We can no longer go and get it back. And I think if you analyze it, you'll all of us, right? We'll look at time that we used valuably and time that we wasted and time we do things differently. But we don't necessarily apply those lessons for the time going forward, right? Which soon enough is going to be dead time to us as well. And to really embrace those. And, one of the things that, Ryan really showed me was, and, I talked a little bit about in the video, is when we realized like there's no miracle cure that was going to come and time was running out. I said, hey, bucket list, like, what do you want to do? But he said, the thing he wanted to do was just be with his friends and family, and to watch him play Connect Four with his son, or watch Jungle Book with his son, or, just have like a tea and have the sun on his face. There's this beautiful patio that was at the hospice, and just watch him enjoy those moments. You realize that life is all these little things, right? That it's not those big moments. Those big moments are great and they happen and they're tremendous. But, you think about all those little moments and how that really are the things that, stay in your heart. I've been watching the Eco Challenge as well and just got to the end of it last night. But there was this real powerful moment where that one gentleman, he's on the Canadian team, he talks about, he was doing the race with his 18-year-old daughter. He said one of the things that he really appreciated about the race the most was that his daughter reached out to hold his hand. Because he goes, I remember when I was a dad and she was a little kid, and any dad will totally resonate with this, is your child grabs your hand and you are the protector of the world. They are safe. They just look to you with this awe. And as obviously they grow up, that's not going to happen ever again. And he said just to have that moment back where she reached out to him and she was dependent on him and she looked to him for that guidance was just so powerful for him. And to me, that was like, a beautiful moment that I had to reflect on, because that is so what life is, right? Small moments that we can take for granted so easily.
So put the Snapchat down, kids. Put the TikTok away and go out there and do something. And don't give me any spoilers, because I'm still a number of episodes behind. So I don't want to know who won. I know who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for I'm rooting for Marty, the guy with Alzheimer's that's racing with his son, right? I know they're not going to. I know they're not going to win
Yeah.
because they're pretty far back, but I'm
Yeah.
rooting for them to continue on. So,
Incredible story, incredible father son, and once again, a great example of seizing
yeah,
life in the moment of life,
yeah,
right? And not saying, "Hey, I'm going to let this disease, quote unquote, put me in bed or put me out to pasture." He's out there racing. His son's with him. You can see that spirit in him, right? They're overcoming the obstacles of that disease. Like it's just a beautiful story. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's almost like it was meant to be, right? I mean, we're watching that together.
Yeah,
We're having
that's
this
right. That's
conversation.
right.
Look, everything is lining up. If I
That's
played the
right.
lotto, maybe I should go out and put some numbers down and say, if I played the lotto, what
Well, the
numbers fall?
universe, I've always said, it feels like the universe has conspired for us on the Give 'em All side. And I feel like whenever you set your mind to something and really set your mind to something, it feels like the universe will conspire with you. It doesn't, I'm not saying it's easy and everything lines up, but, Ryan, who turned out to be, an amazing friend, like a brother to me.
Yeah.
I kept kind of having these weird situations when I was growing up. Like I dated this girl in university that she had dated. I grew up in Niagara Falls. Ryan grew up in Saskatchewan, which is kind of in the west of Canada. So we didn't live anywhere close. But I dated this girl in university that had dated Ryan when they were in high school together, and she told me
That's
all about
crazy.
him. And then a friend of mine was hitchhiking across Canada, got picked up by Ryan and got dropped off at my house, but never met Ryan. And then, working at Longview, our first manager of HR that came in when we were about 50 people, I introduced myself to her. We were talking, and I made the connection that her husband was Ryan. And he not
Oh
only
my
was he in
goodness.
Calgary, he lived just around the corner from me, right? So it does feel like the universe, there is some magic to it, that it does conspire. I use the example, like if I said, how many green cars did you see today? You'd probably say, I didn't see many. But if you and I started really focusing on finding green cars, we'd get really good at it. We'd probably, we'd be asking our friends and they'd be like, oh, my uncle has a car rental business. They have all tons of green cars
Yeah.
over there. Like
Yeah.
we could really start putting our energy into it and really unfolding the fact that there's a whole bunch of green cars everywhere. And to me, that's what Give a Mile has been. It's been for the community, by the community. We keep bumping into people that just keep helping us make these flights unfold. I can't tell you how many times, there's obviously this kind of angst, right? Because you're reaching out to these families, letting them know you have flights, and you obviously need to fulfill that, and you need donors and that type of thing to do that. And we've had some big requests. We had a woman here in Calgary. She was originally from the Philippines. She was in her mid-30s. She got diagnosed with terminal cancer. She had two small children here. She didn't have any family here, and so she was like, I want to fly back to the Philippines because I have, I think she had 10 brothers and sisters there. And so they will raise my children. The social worker called us on a Thursday and said, I need, these 3 flights. It was 4 because they needed a nurse to fly with them. We need these 4 flights to the Philippines and we need them to fly Saturday morning because her condition's deteriorating.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I don't know. That's obviously a lot of miles but literally called 2 donors and went to that woman's house the next day with the tickets, and she made it to the Philippines and her children to her family. So like, there's something to be said about that, right? The fact that as you put it out there, people show up and are willing to help, and just, I know with the news and everything, it can, I think it skews the world in the wrong way, because the people that I bump into have been so willing to help and have such amazing hearts and have been there for us in whatever way they can. And it's been incredible, right? Incredible to see how good people are and how willing to help people are. It's just, I have really strong faith in humanity, regardless. We have lots of problems we have to fix, don't get me wrong. And we have to do so much better, and we should be doing so much better. But the intent of humanity, the average person's intent, is just coming from a really good place, right? Like there's so many good people out there.
Yeah, if we focus on more positive as opposed to negative, then we will have a brighter life and definitely be in a better place. And that's something that we should all be doing.
Yeah, and I think focus on pragmatic, real solutions, right? Like one of the things, I would say about Give a Mile to me is that there was no other charity in this place, nobody else that I know of that does flights for palliative care. Obviously, we had that Miles situation. To me, that was and I didn't come up with just myself. I have team of volunteers working with me. I have about 30 to 35 people dedicated to this, and that was filling a gap and filling a need. And you know, you have to roll up your sleeves and make that happen. And there's a lot of hard work put into that. And to me, that's the conversations we need to be having. And those are the important things. Like what's getting results? What's working? What can we do here? What do people really need? You know, a lot of times I feel that, you know, it's kind of more at that philosophical level, and we don't really understand what's really creating impact, what's really creating results. And that's what we have to drive. You know, if I think of Give a Mile, you know, because we work in obviously the for-profit space on our jobs, our daily jobs, you and I, and I always say, you know, Give a Mile, our number is not a revenue number. Our number is a flight number, right? Like that's the truth teller, right? We're here to give flights away, and we want to give lots more flights away. That's our purpose. And at the end of the day, you know, we can do all these other things, you know, have great social media content or whatever, but if we're not giving flights away, that's not our purpose, right? That's where the rubber has to hit the road for us, and we have to drive towards that impact, make that impact happen.
And that's the focus. And you know, I want to leave it there, right? Because that's the focus of the conversation, and I really want that to resonate. Again, I will post as much information as I can from my third person view looking in to make sure that folks have that. Kevin, man, thank you for spending a little bit of time, brother. You know, it's Sunday afternoon. I'm probably going to go cut the grass. I don't know what the family's not here yet, so I may just like I say, jump on the Peloton and
like
work off
and
do some of that, because I don't have gym access right now, but I may need to go do that and work off some of the wedding cake and all that I had this weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Peloton for you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What do you got going on outside? You got anything else? You said you're not training for anything, but you hitting the trails or anything anytime soon? Where could people, if I throw out your Instagram to folks, where will they find you next? What river or forest will they find you in next?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on a certain mountain I wanted to climb out here, and I think I'm going to go do that this weekend because fall's coming pretty quick. And it's one of those mountains that's kind of off the beaten path. There's not a lot of maps or written up information on it, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then we're going to try to do a longer paddle of the Bow River. We did 55. We're thinking we can maybe make it over 60 here, maybe more up towards 70. And so those are the two things I want to get done before the end of summer. Call it, before mid-September, from a adventure point of view. So fingers crossed we'll get those fit in. So.
I was going to say before midnight, before you go to sleep tonight, but I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much again for joining. You are a good man. You are you have a great heart.
Thank you.
Give a Mile, I think, is phenomenal in terms of what you're doing, what you're providing, and I will do my little part to help contribute to that as well. You're good folks, man. I'm glad we were able to catch up.
Absolutely.
And take care of yourself, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.